Hello once again to the fine fellows at the liveactionanime.org forums. I am Thrash Till Death, and we've left Dragon Ball Evolution in the dirt now, so between that and Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li, it seems that so far 2009 hasn't been a very good year for live-action anime. So I thought I'd take out a moment just to review an older film that actually does adapt an anime and actually does do it well. That film is 2004's Japanese movie Casshern, directed by Kazuki Kiriya. It's adapted from the 1973 anime of the same name by Tatsunoko Studios, who I'm told were the sort of dawns of superhero anime in the 60s and 70s. The story goes that it's the future again, and Asia and Europe have been through an extended period of nuclear war again, and the two continents are starting to get back on their feet, but a lot of their population is really sick from radiation sickness, and their economy's been decimated, so the two continents are really struggling. And this scientist comes along, Dr. Azuma, who has a revolutionary new treatment whereby he can regrow tissues and organs to order. And so he can actually treat people with radiation sickness by, growing them new organs, which won't be rejected and which won't be hard to transplant. So what happens is he's working on this new cure, but a random bolt of lightning from the Deus Ex Machina sky strikes his laboratory, and this turns this new medicine he's created into this sort of mystical elixir of life, which is actually capable of reviving the dead. And from this solution there comes a sort of new species of human called the Neoroids. They're stronger, they're faster, they're smarter, and they're seeking to sort of replace the original human race. And as if he didn't have enough on his plate already, Dr. Azuma actually takes it upon himself to revive his son Tetsuya, who was killed in the war, and in so doing he actually turns Tetsuya into a Neoroid himself. Now, a couple of pointers about this film. First of all, on a narrative level, you're not going to understand what's going on. It's an extremely confusing, very abstract film that doesn't really adhere to any ordinary narrative conventions. I've watched it twice, and fairly attentively both times, and I still don't really have any idea of what was going on towards the end. Plot developments sort of arise, they come and go, Deus Ex Machina is abundant, there are plot holes the size of the Marinaris fucking valley, and altogether it's never entirely clear how much of the film you're supposed to be taking at face value, how much you're supposed to be taking literally, and how much is sort of abstract symbolism. So it's sort of confusing on that level. Secondly, the director, Kazuki Kiriya, who's also the cinematographer, editor, and writer, was originally a director of music videos. And it shows, because Casshern is possibly the single greatest exercise in directorial excess ever. I mean, it makes Sin City look about as chaste and restrained as The Bicycle Thieves. It's amazing. To date, it's the only example I can think of a live-action film which actually includes speed lines. And I'm not making that up. Speed lines. I swear to God. And, it's an extremely unorthodox film. It doesn't adhere to the sort of any of the conventions of storytelling and direction. And a lot of people would pass it off as a sort of work of extreme self-indulgence, which, at 140 minutes along, sort of collapses under its own weight. And I wouldn't say those people are wrong exactly, but I take a bit different view. Casshern, it occurs to me, isn't a film of words. It isn't a film driven by story. It's more about a film of moods. It's seeking to create a sort of this grand cycle, not of a narrative, but of images and sounds. And when you watch it on that level, it actually becomes sort of weirdly compelling. It's a very dreamlike experience. When you watch the fight scenes in this film, a lot of the effects aren't particularly good, but a lot of the shots and the mise-en-scène are so grandiose that you can't help but find yourself be drawn in. A lot of the characters aren't particularly well developed, but equally, a lot of them, it makes such an effort to be epic that at the same time you find yourself being strangely compelled. When you watch the film on its terms rather than your own, it becomes something sort of new, something different, something vibrant and majestic. And I don't know about anyone else, but I actually found myself very much enjoying it. this is sort of the sort of thing I enjoy. I don't watch films a lot of the time for plot. I watch them for sort of the visual experience, the sensory experience, and Casshern on that level, it delivers like no other film I've seen in several years. I mean, alongside films like sort of Sky Captain and The World of Tomorrow and Sin City, this was sort of a pioneer apparently in the art of blue screen and green screen. And it has a very sort of unreal, or if you like, hyper-real quality to it. It's sort of a very vibrant, colourful film, and you know, if you're into that sort of thing, I'd thoroughly advise you to check it out. I really am. I love stuff like this. And I find myself really enjoying this film. Personally, I would give it 3.5 out of 4 on the 4-star scale. But don't take that as sacrament. I could see that some people really wouldn't enjoy this film. It's one that you either love or hate. But either way, I think Casshern is a film that demands to be experienced simply because there's nothing else that's really quite like it. If nothing else, it actually highlights sort of what was wrong with Dragon Ball Evolution. That was a film that didn't do anything innovative or creative with its source material. It didn't take it in any new direction. And what it ended up with was just sort of a mishmash of cultural sensibilities and a retread of old ideas that didn't satisfy anyone. Casshern is almost the exact opposite. It seeks out to be something very much of its own making, very unique, very individual. And I think it is admirable just for forging ahead and making a path of its own. So yeah, I think watch Casshern just for the uniqueness of the experience. If nothing else, you may love it, you may hate it, but watch it anyway. And so that's really all I've got to say about it. I'll probably be back next week to bring you my review of Blood the Last Vampire, the live-action adaptation. That looks quite promising. Hopefully it'll remove the curse of Western adaptations of anime that's sort of been following this whole culture so far. So I'll be back. I'll see you soon. I'm Thrash Till Death. Goodbye.